Hi, hello everybody. Okay, so the other day I was having a conversation on Facebook about Egoist, and a few people mentioned that they found it hard to get their head around. So I thought I'd do a bit of a run through on Egoist by bytes, which is a great beatbox and sample slicer. So anyway, this is the Egoist. What you have is a sample slicing section. You have a bass synth, and you have a drum machine. Relatively simple drum machine, and let's go through this in order. So I'm going to pull up an empty patch here. It comes loaded with dozens and dozens and dozens of presets, all of which have a loaded sample which has been sliced up and bass and drums and stuff added. Okay, so I want to create an empty, or start with an empty preset, and rather counterintuitively and hard to find if you're not used to it, is under bytes A, right at the end is empty. So if I load that up, I've got an empty pattern here. Now I'm going to load up. I'm going to load up something I pasted in yesterday, which I think is this. Let's have a look. Okay, so this is just a drum loop that I've passed through Tornado, and this is what it sounds like. Now you see when I loaded it up, automatically it's sliced it up into 16 sections, and where it slices it up, it's looking for the beginnings and the ends of the transients. So I can take what it's given me here, or I can set the sensitivity to be lower, and you see here now it's only splitting the sample up on the biggest of the transients, and so I'm going to take that. Now when you run this, if I click X here, it's going to give me basically 1 to however many sample slices it's made, and then repeat it. Actually, I'm going to make that slightly more sensitive. So let's go to that there. Do that again. Okay, so now I've got 1 to 16, and it's now running these sample slices all in order. Now I'm going to reduce the length of each of these, and it has a tendency to put accents on the beats, so I'm going to just reduce the accents there. Okay, shorten that a bit further. Okay, so I'm quite happy with my slices now, and now you can now mix them up. So I can just mess around with these. We can also change the pitch. We can change the octave. So that's pitch, octave. I can change the attack on any of these by making the attack longer. I can reverse any of the sample slices I've got, and I can reduce the length of the sample slice there, so that's the decay. And you've also got the volume, which I can change. Now I'm just going to get rid of all of that by clicking X, X, and X. So I'm now back to my default. And if you're not sure what to do, just click random, because what you get is randomization is brilliant on this thing, and it's a really good way of generating some grooves. Okay, let's work with that. I don't like reverse samples very much, so I'm going to get rid of the reverses. I'm going to put a couple of gaps in there by just turning off those two sections. Okay, so that's my slice up sample. And I could make a couple of these ones over here at the end a bit shorter. Just change the samples as well. Yeah, okay. All right, so that's the slicing page. It's quite straightforward, and a little bit of playing around will reap rewards. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of included samples. All the ones from the presets are in here, and you can select any of those. And if you haven't got a sample that you want to load yourself, I tend to load my own because I do. All right, so let's go over to the beats and bass tab, and I'm going to turn the slicer off for now. All right, so first thing is the drum machine. We've got a drum machine here, and you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 different, 14, 15 different kits. Each of these kits has 32 bass drums, 32 snare drums, and 32 hi-hats. So a little bit of mental calculation, which I'm not going to do right now, tells you you've got an awful lot of different sounds to play with. So let's start with the analog kit, and if let's just put a simple rhythm. A second click on these can give you you can see here I've got a small drum, so that's going to change the volume that plays at. And with the hi-hats, you've got closed hi-hat, open hi-hat, closed less noisy hi-hat, and open less noisy hi-hat. So you've got a bit of variation you can build in there. Okay, now these here are the kits, so I can change the kits, and that will change all 3 of these at once. Or I can change any individual drum. Okay, and I can change my maximum out. I can change the volume of any of these parts, and I can also change pitch. That'll do. Let's go for that one. Prefer that snare. Alright, so here we are. I've got some variation on the electro kit. And now we've got the bass section. It's a simple but quite functional bass synth. Now you can, if you press any of these parts, you've got various lengths of note, and this one you can see runs on to the next note, so I can create myself a long note there. And you've got notes that bend up or down from whichever the previous note was. So if I have a couple of short ones there, one that's bending up, and a couple of short, right. Now you've also got this pitch section under here, so I can take that down by a couple of semitones. I'm going to take that down by an octave. You notice I'm not getting any difference there. That's because this is a run-on note. So if I change that to change that one to a note that ends, make that one a run-on note. I might make that one bend down. Okay. Now you've got a bunch of defaults here. And there's quite a lot to play around with here. Basic waveform, cut off, and 3 different filter types. Resonance. We've got modulation here, and this is a and that can be either set to an envelope, or it can be set to an LFO. We've got the drive, and the length of the note. And again, with all of this, you can hit the random button and produce yourself some great stuff. Also, you'll notice I've got here, these are running linearly. I can make them run backwards. Well, basically, I can make it bounce backwards and forwards. Now, one great thing about Egoist is that the output of the bass goes out on MIDI. So what I generally do is I like to crank up TerraSynth, because I think the basses in that got some real guts, and whatever is playing here will also play in MIDI or virtual MIDI across on the synthesizer of your choice, so you can bring up another instrument in the background. So now I've got all three parts set up. Alright, so that brings us on to the effects section, and we've got a filter, you've got a high pass, band pass, low pass, so on. You've got a delay which you can set beat synced, and you've got level, and you've got feedback. You've got reverb, which tends to be a bit overzealous, I find, so keep that one a little bit smaller, otherwise it gets mental. You've got lo-fi, so you can basically reduce the bit depth and the sampling rate of your to make a lo-fi sound. You've got the chorus. You've got a stop, that's a tape stop, so it kind of brings the sound to a stop. And you've got a tape style looper, which I like to use a lot. Now if I just add some effects in there with the random button, nothing's playing at the moment, so I'm going to just turn the slicer on and then add the effects. Some random effects on there. I'm going to take it off the slicer and put it onto bass. Some delay there. So you can apply effects. It's a bit like the Effectrix or the effects engine in Cyclop. It's very, very similar. What I think is most effective is if you remove all this lot and reduce the length of the effects section, so it doesn't match the length of the parts playing in the background. That way the effects are now out of sync and you get a sort of a rolling effect across everything. Probably the best one here is the loop, because now it's giving me a nice little bit of variation going on in there. It's the filter. Chorus maybe. Lo-fi chorus. Okay. Now I'm applying this to the beat. I can apply it to any of these parts. And that's a pattern. Now I've got, this is, if I go to parts here, that was pattern A1, and I can now make up, this A here is now made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 versions of that pattern. So if I go to song, I can reduce that now. My song now is, I can reduce it down to 1, so I've got A here, which consists of pattern 1 repeated 8 times. And you've got 16 patterns, so you can make up complicated patterns with many complicated songs with many different patterns that make up many different parts that put together to make up a song. I generally keep stuff to sort of 16 or 32 bar loops because I like to export that. I just go to the bounce audio and share and bounce my loops and export them via audio copy into Loopy or whatever you have. The MIDI settings here, as you can see, this is the MIDI that's typically going out of the bass. So if you put up something in the background, you can be playing bass in the background there. And you've got tempo changes. Clock source can be internal or external, and there's a lot of great functionality. So Egoist. If you're ever completely out of inspiration, have a go with Egoist. It's well worth it, and it's a great app. I think it's one of the finest on the App Store. Okay, Bye.